Well, here we are again.
Yes.
Happy Friday. Ensight Podcast is in the house.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Me, Pastor B. It's her, Bishop D.K. Webb. We're here once again on a great Friday afternoon. Thank you so much for being with us, for joining us.
Yes.
For Ensight Podcast.
Yes.
God bless you. Thank you so much. We're so glad that you were able to make it. So glad that you were able to make it with us this Friday. Listen, y'all know how we do it. We got hot topics. Amen. That's what we come to discuss. This is not, amen, a preaching show. It's a podcast. It's a talk show. But it is spiritually based. We are saved, sanctified folks. Amen. We filled with the Spirit of the living God. So we coming from a Christian perspective.
Yes.
We got some great topics to discuss week by week, and today it's going to be no different. So we're so glad you joined us. For all of our YouTube subscribers, thank you so much. Our YouTube family, thank you for being here with us. And we're going to continue on doing what we do. We appreciate your support. Bishop, we got a hot topic for him today.
We got a hot topic today.
We got some stuff that's, I mean, it's fresh, hot off the press type news.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We got some hot off the press, cooking like grease, Pastor B.
Yeah.
And how are you this Friday?
I'm doing good. I'm blessed and highly favored.
Yeah, me too. I'm just thankful for shelter.
Yes.
Last couple of days, it's been a little chilly.
It has been.
Snowing in some areas, so we're just thankful for shelter.
Yes,
and thankful for how the Lord is keeping us. But today, Pastor B, it's just this topic. I mean, this topic is like fire. Yeah. And we're going to discuss today. And I want to hear more of what you're going to say today, as opposed to what I'm going to say. And our hot topic today is on Blue Death. Blue Death. And that's the reality of police brutality.
Yeah.
Yeah, Blue Death. Yeah. And, you know, we as people
very hot topic right now.
Very hot topic. Very hot topic.
Yeah.
And we as people of color, you know, we have been subjected to this for centuries. It's not new. You know, it is just now you got cameras everywhere. Right. You got cameras everywhere. And even Blue has to wear cameras. So you got cameras everywhere. But our foreparents, when they were being slaughtered like animals by Blue, and when we say Blue, we mean those that we pay to serve and protect us.
Yeah.
Members of law enforcement. We pay them, our taxes pay them to serve and protect us. Their salaries are paid through taxes, just like any government official. But even when you talk about Blue, whether it's on a county level, whether it's on a federal level, you know, your taxpayer dollars, some of it must be allocated for safety. And when you think about safety, you think you're really safe when you see someone show up in blue.
Right.
But unfortunately, Pastor B, due to so many incidents that have been publicly purveyed, I mean, they have been publicly viewed. It is just heartbreaking. And most of the time, the narrative, Pastor B, is around blue with skin that doesn't look like us.
Right.
But this latest incident is blue with skin that looks just like us.
Right.
And of course, it's not a surprise though, Pastor B. No. It's not a surprise to us, especially people of color. It's not a surprise because it happens all the time as well. Yeah. So it's not a black thing. It's not a white thing, beloved.
Yeah,
today it's a blue thing. And so we're going to talk about that today. Blue Death. It's not about race. It's about what they represent in their various occupations. And this one is safety occupation. And nobody, Pastor B, that is looking to someone in a safety occupation, that person be the one to take their life. And oftentimes it's over small matters. So today we're going to talk, Pastor B, about this young man. I hope I'm pronouncing his name right. Is it all right? I think
Tyree.
I think we're having a little difficulties. We're sorry for that interruption.
I believe that's how they pronounce it.
Tyree Nichols.
Yeah.
And this young man, 29 years old, there in Memphis. And Pastor B, now, have you watched the video? I haven't.
I haven't watched the entire video, but I've seen clips of it.
Okay. Well, I just couldn't stomach it. I couldn't watch it. After he was brutally beaten. And it reminded me, Pastor B, any other time we see 5 people who are beating you, and, when in the street, we call that jumping you. You got jumped.
Got jumped. That's it.
You got jumped. In the neighborhood where I come from, if you fight somebody, that's why people would come out and try to protect you, because they would say, okay, you're not going to jump her.
You're going to do a one-on-one.
We're going to do one-on-one. And if you beat her, you beat her. But one person can't beat 5 people.
That's right.
One person can't. But now, Pastor B, in this young man's case, you got 5 people with a gun, with a weapon.
Right. And other weapons too. Yeah.
So as I read and had seen, some of the commentary about him, and my heart just went out to his mom and his dad. And it's brought shockwaves, of course, and it's pulsating across the country. I mean, because it's just shockwaves, right? That people, get on TV and can see that you as law enforcement in blue, you have killed somebody yet once again. So I want to first ask you, Pastor B, because I'm interested to hear your viewpoint. First of all, as a Black man, a man of color, how does it make you feel when you see things like this and you being subjected to systemic racism?
Well, I mean, I think that's probably actually the thought behind it. That's exactly the thought behind it. When it happens, that it is systemic, that it's like, the feeling is like this is a losing battle, because it is systemic. As you've already stated, this is something we've been dealing with, for hundreds of years. Our ancestors dealt with it, so it feels like, okay, they just found a new way, to get around, the things that may be deemed as illegal, but they find a way to deem it to be legal, and brutalize us. And, they brutalize us. They damage us and literally kill us, not only are we physically damaged, we're mentally damaged, psychologically damaged. We're afraid. I mean, people don't just run from the police because they're trying to get away. A lot of times they run in addition to trying to get away, but they scared. They're like, they so afraid. I mean, I've talked to people. They are afraid of being caught because they don't feel like, for us as a black person, especially a Black man, we don't feel like, well, even if I'm caught, I'm gonna get a fair trial. You know what I mean? And for us, that fairness starts at the traffic stop, or it starts at the point of contact with the police officer. It's not just, when you get to the courtroom and in front of the judge. It starts at that moment. And we don't feel like in that moment, because the reality is this, Bishop, if as a black man in particular, if we felt like, well, even if we get pulled over or we get stopped on the street or whatever, if we felt like we would have a fair and just opportunity, even with the police officer. I mean, yeah, of course you're gonna have some people to run. That's gonna happen, but a lot more people would not even resist, or be, just have that attitude of negativity towards a police officer. But because of their history of how they treat us, again, how they demonized us, I mean, they have, as a matter of fact, they have weaponized us, they have weaponized us because they have put it in other people's minds that we are the threat. So they have literally weaponized us as a race, as a race of people, in particular as men. They have weaponized us. So because of that, the feeling that we have, the thoughts that we have behind it, all of those things, I mean, and so much more. So it's like, I don't even want to deal with this cop. I don't even, if I get pulled over, you know what? I'm just going to try to get away. Or if they see me on the street, I'm just going to try to run. Whether I did something wrong or I didn't do something wrong.
Right.
And because we've seen so many situations like Tyree Nichols, like Philando Castile, where he did the right thing. He legally went and had his weapon registered. He was a registered gun owner in the state of Minnesota. He was registered. When he got pulled over, he told the officer, I do legally have a firearm with me. What do you want me to do? Or whatever the case may be. He was obeying the man's commands. Right. And he still shot him.
He still shot him.
He still shot him. And
well, wait a minute, Pastor B. I want hold right there. I want to just go back over what you just said about that's an insight moment. Men of color have been weaponized because just merely the color of your skin, they have put it in people's mind that we are a threat.
You're a threat. Exactly.
So we have been weaponized. So you don't have to do anything wrong. You don't have to. You don't even have to. I mean, there's been instances where people have been stopped. I know I've been, we call it DWB, driving while black. So, but I want to hear, Pastor B, now I heard what you said about but I want you to bring that in for us, our viewers, our listeners, a little more personal. What is your first emotion? What is your first raw emotion and your first thought? If you see blue behind you and they're pulling you over, what is your talk about that? How do you feel being a black man?
I mean, I could say personally, it's a range of things that go on in my mind.
Okay.
Because I don't know if I'm being profiled, number one.
Right.
Number two, was I followed?
Okay.
So I'm thinking about that. Am I being profiled, or has this person been following me for a while? Am I being profiled? Am I being followed? Am I being targeted? I'm thinking about, where's my license? Where's my registration? Let me have all that out.
Because so is that fearful? Is that fearful?
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's a range of emotions. It's
okay.
Like, this is all the things that are going on in my mind. When I recognize that they're behind me, I'm thinking about all these things, right? All these things are coming up in my mind. Okay, let me reach for this. Let me reach for that now, so I won't have to reach when he get here or when she gets there, or then I'm trying to also concentrate on the road to pull up. It's all of these things. Like, you trying to process all of this
at one time.
At one time, right? Mm-hmm. In addition to, maybe there is fear, You know, maybe there is fear. I think there is. I think there is generally just a fear of the unknown. You don't know if this is going to be, you know, one of the good ones or the bad ones, so to speak. You know,
Right.
it's that fear of that. You don't know what's about to approach you. You know what I mean? Okay, let me make sure when I get pulled over, you know, I got my hands visible. Like all these things are going on in your mind at the same time. You're trying to process all this. And this is the reason why it's so hurtful to me. And it honestly, you know, I mean, you know, just being transparent about it, it really just ticks me off because when I see people like Tyree Nichols and Philando Castile and so many others, you know, some that were doing right and some that they may have done something wrong, but it wasn't a cause for them to be killed, you know.
Yeah.
I think about that. I think about what were they thinking? Like, what was going through their mind? You know what I mean? Because again, when you're trying to process all of these different thoughts and emotions all at one time, but the overall feeling, I guess that's probably driving all of it, like you're saying, Bishop, it's really a fear of what could happen.
Right.
You know? So, you know, I mean, you thinking about your children, you know, oh man, you know, you want to get back home to your family. Like you're thinking about all these things. All of these things are going on.
Yeah, because they say the young man was crying out for his mother. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah. Like you thinking about all this stuff at the same. I mean, so George Floyd, he called for his mom. You know, I mean, and he was 40 something years old. I mean, it's the range.
Doesn't matter. Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Like you got so much going on in your mind, and you're trying to process it, and you're trying to listen to them screaming at you, and 9 times out of 10, they calling you out all out your name, calling you all kinds of stuff, and you know, maybe beating on you, maybe choking you, you know, maybe harassing you. I mean, it's just it's emotional, it's overwhelming, it's a lot to deal with, you know. And then the fact of even if you haven't done anything criminal, so to speak, right? Because even if it's a traffic violation is not a criminal violation, right?
Right. Right.
So even if you haven't done anything criminal, you're still thinking about, let me make sure I don't say anything to incriminate myself or, you know, make myself look any kind of way.
But what can you not say if they got it in for you to beat you anyway?
That's the problem. That is the problem, Bishop, is you're thinking about all these things. You're trying to process all these things.
Okay.
And then, like in Tyree's case, you do it anyway. So now what do I do?
Right, right.
What do I do?
Okay, so with his case, Pastor B, they say he was running. He was running from the police.
So this is what I saw. So what I saw, the parts that I saw, I didn't see like the initial like traffic stop, initiation of a traffic stop. I didn't see that.
Okay.
I saw when his vehicle was approached by officers, and they literally yanked him out.
Okay. Yanked him out of his car.
Right, yanked him out of his car. Now from what I was reading, I was looking at a clip of an interview. I believe it was D.L. Hughley, I believe. And he was talking about it, and he has seen more of the video, and he said that he watched it. He never saw them ask for his license or his registration.
Just yanked him out.
You know, right. They never did those things that would normally happen on a regular traffic stop. They approached his vehicle with their guns drawn. Well, at least one officer had his gun drawn. And a different officer started to curse at him and use profanities, and yanked him out. And he looked like he was so startled, like he was so, you know, taken aback by what was going on.
Just off guard.
Right, completely caught off guard. So he's like, whoa, like, you know, what's going on? So, and what happens is, Bishop, and this is the part that it's just hurtful. It's just hurtful, you know. The first thing they say is, they were resisting. You know, they don't, like, there's a lot of stuff mentally that's going on with you. It's not that you're trying to resist or even resisting, but sometimes it's almost like you're literally in shock.
But I found, Pastor B, even from my experience being a mother of Black men, that when they do that kind of thing, they say resisting to try to create a narrative
exactly
around justifying their improper behavior.
That is their excuse.
Yeah.
The bottom line, that is their excuse. Their excuse
Mm-hmm.
is because it's now, I'm not a police officer, but just from seeing so many cases over the years, it's clearly written in the rule book, so to speak, or the SOP, the standard operating procedures. This is what you can do when somebody resists being detained or arrested, right? You can use basically reasonable force to do so.
Well, see,
right?
that's the key. Reasonable.
Right.
Not deadly.
Right. But that word reasonable, Bishop, is first of all, that's the gray area, number one.
Okay.
Right? It's not black and white because, so on one hand, I understand reasonable force for one person, someone that's not that big, maybe not that strong, you can kind of secure them and subdue them, with not a lot of effort, right? But then someone else who may be a little stronger, maybe a little bigger, maybe that reasonable clause is a little bit different. I get that. I understand that, right? But what they do is this is how I look at it. I feel like they do that for the initial crossing of that line, right? So in order to get them across the line, it's almost like somebody coming into your house, right? Like, okay, well they outside the house, and they can't come across your door sill, right? And their intent is to really be able to get in your house and sit down on your couch, right? So they just keep working to get across the doorstep, get across the doorstep, get across the doorstep, and they just keep getting blocked, right? But then once they get across that doorstep, now they find other reasons that they can use to get to the couch.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
So the doorstep is that initial step.
Right. So the whole
area. But Pastor B, wait a minute, hold on. But what about? Okay, do you just walk up to people's doorstep? You got to have a certain reason, and it seems to me with these blue deaths, are they using the color of their uniform to get that entry?
The reason, that's a whole nother subject, Bishop. That's a whole nother subject, because the book. Now, I mean, I've been pulled over before. I mean, the book of citations or reasons for citation, rather, the book that the police have. I mean, it's a book this thick. I mean, for reasons that they can pull you over or reasons they can give you a citation. So it's they can find a reason. You know what I mean? They can find a reason.
I mean, I know they can pull out a reason, but
when they find that reason is the entryway into the gray area. Right. So now let me use this and get into the gray area. Now, once I get into this gray area, and I know that I can use this, and if you resist any kind of way, or if you put up any kind of resistance, then I can use reasonable force to detain you, right? And then as I'm using reasonable force, it's like it's layered, it's scaled, it's layered.
Okay, but where is our rights as a citizen? If you try to detain me, of course, I'm going to resist when I got 3 or 4 of you and you got your knees on me and your elbows on me. You're causing me discomfort. You have me cuffed. So why do we not start making even more noise as opposed to, Pastor B, keep having situations like this? Because, of course, I can find some in the book to come up with.
Well, I mean, I think, like I said, it's on a scale, right. And they use the law conveniently, basically, in order to back them to to validate them, to benefit them. They use it, to their advantage.
Okay,
Basically. So
so let
you
me
as a person on the other side, like myself,
right as a black man.
as a black man like myself, unfortunately, a lot of these situations, as we have seen, are not resolved until you go to a court of law. And even sometimes then there's still no justice, but
I
in
mean,
the
you can
heat,
never bring a life back.
but in the heat of the moment, right? In the heat of the moment, the worst case scenario is what happened to Tyree Nichols and Eric Garner and so many others, right? That's the worst case scenario. But Bishop, there are a lot of situations where people have not been killed, but they've been wounded.
Wounded and maimed. Absolutely.
They've been, exactly.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
They suffered permanent damage, physically
Absolutely.
and mentally,
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
I think that.
But okay, Pastor B. So now tell me, you've told me how you feel, but I want to add a layer to that and hear what you say about that. Is your feelings of anxiety, fear, just a plethora of emotions that happens when blue gets behind you? Is it any different when you see in blue the color of their skin? Because in this particular case, these police look like him.
Not for me. I mean, for me personally, I've seen it on both sides. So it doesn't, and that's the reason why, like I think it's such a great topic, because it's truly that, that whole thing about, the boys in blue and blue lives matter, because this, that, and the third with cops. Like, it's a blue code, and we blue blood and all those other things I've heard. That thing is thick. Those threads run deep, and they will stick with each other to the end.
Yeah, like that major case in Baltimore, and they made a TV show from it where this, and it made me think about that when I had read about these cops that killed this young man. They were part of it's called the special unit called Scorpion. So they were a special unit, and they did a special on some policemen in Baltimore who were police of a special unit. And they were doing the same thing. They were setting up people. They were setting up criminals. They were setting up people who had prior records, even to the point of killing people and putting it on someone else. So it is real. It's real.
Yeah.
And the resounding effect, because Pastor B, another one, what about this teacher, this DC school teacher who died in LA?
Yeah, I heard about that.
This school teacher in LA.
Was that police brutality?
Yes.
Okay, I didn't know that. I heard vaguely about that story, but I didn't know
him. It was a traffic accident, a traffic incident. This was a couple weeks prior to this last story with Tyree Nichols.
Yeah, I didn't know the details of it, but I did hear about there was a DC teacher that was in California, but I didn't hear the details of the.
This was January 12th. He was visiting family during his winter break, and they showed his on TV. Now I did see that video, and he actually said, "As my Pastor B, they're about to do a George Floyd on me."
Oh wow!
He said that out of his mouth.
Wow!
And they kept stunning him with a stun gun. But because I want to also paint the picture of the blue who try to do right. Because one of those in blue, they're in the video, Pastor B, he says to his colleague, he says, "Get your elbow out of his neck."
Wow.
He had his elbow or something, a body part in this individual that they were trying to apprehend. And so his colleague can be heard on the video saying, move your elbow, move your elbow. So he's trying to do it right. But Pastor B.
Wow.
Pastor B, you all right?
Oh, yeah. You hear me?
Okay. All right. I hear you. Yeah. So this was a DC school teacher.
Yeah.
most of the time, Pastor B, it's a traffic stop.
Yeah.
So tell me, being a father even of a young black male, what emotions run with you if your child is in the car?
Well, I think it's just that. I mean, that's what I'm saying, Bishop. It's a wide range of emotions, right, that happen when a traffic stop is initiated, or just you come in contact with the police. It could be, you could be walking in the store, you could be in Walmart, and the police are coming down your aisle, but like they're not shopping, as civilians. Like they're working for whatever reason they're in Walmart, and they can walk down the aisle with me, and it's just, again, it's like those thoughts just, they kick right in. Like, okay, let me it's instant. It's instant, and to me, that's what's the right word for it? That's the mental anguish.
Okay.
That's the effect on mental health that it has, because of not only what has happened to me personally, but the things that I'm seeing that's happening, year after year.
So does that make you already defensive?
Absolutely. No question about it. Again, there's fear involved. There's defensiveness involved. There's a certain degree of speculation, because your mind is all over the place.
Yes.
All the what ifs are playing in your mind.
All the what ifs.
Yeah.
Because all these men, like I said, this school teacher, he said they're about to do a George Floyd on me. He said it.
Right.
So that had to be in his mind.
All these things are playing in your mind. All the what ifs, all the speculations. I'm a father. I got a child, or I have children, or I got a family. All kinds of stuff. Listen, the boy that got killed in DC, the little 13-year-old boy.
Right.
They said that it's more and more, of course, it's coming out.
Right.
But the little boy, although he was doing wrong, again, he didn't deserve to be killed for breaking into somebody's car.
No.
But they say he screamed out and said, please, no, stop, or something like that. I'm only a kid.
I'm only a kid.
And the guy shot him.
I saw that.
Now he wasn't a police officer, but this is the kind of stuff I'm saying, that even when you're doing wrong,
right?
It's all those things that go through your mind. Like, you start thinking about, I got a family, or like that little boy, man, I'm only a kid. So clearly, at that moment, his life flashed in front of him.
Yeah.
And that's what happens. Like, what happens is your life literally, again, it's all of these things that's playing in your mind at the same time, and and while you're trying to process all that, you're also trying to, quote unquote, carry yourself or act in a way that doesn't bring extra attention to you, doesn't put even more of a target on your back. Like, you got all this stuff going on at the same time. So what if this, Bishop? What if, and I know we got to take a commercial break, but what if, with all the stuff that's going on in your mind, okay, what if you slip on something? You know what I'm saying? Like, you forgot to do one thing so you could be perfectly lined up with what they wanted you to do. You gonna kill me for it? It's just, it's insane.
So the reality is, when we talk about the reality of police brutality, is an insight moment that people that we hire, or our community hire to protect us, can be the one to harm you.
Absolutely. That's a proven fact.
Right.
It's not speculation. It's not hearsay. It's not something people just thinking about. No, it's a fact. It's a fact. They're hired to protect and serve.
Protect and serve. That's it. And with us being public servants, because I'm a kind of segue even into that, talking about being public servants. But with this young kid that just got killed in DC, Pastor B, I read, they did charge a man with murder.
Yeah, second degree, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, they did charge him with murder. Because like you said, more is coming out. And this teacher who was killed in LA, they say he was a family member of the founder of Black Lives Matter.
Oh, wow.
One of the co-founders of Black Lives Matter. He was her cousin.
Wow.
So, and he had a background. He's a school teacher.
Right, right.
But before we go to break real quick, Pastor B, speak to this, because when they do things like this, they always try to find something negative about you to say. Like they said about the school teacher, they said, oh, well, he had a trace of marijuana and a little trace of cocaine in his blood. Speak to that, how they always then try to demonize you, because you said earlier, they weaponize us. Mm-hmm. What about this post-mortem demonization?
Well,
what
again,
do you think about that?
I think that it goes back to the points we've made about validation. You know,
right.
People trying to find validation. Right. You know, and I think that speaks to a whole separate thing, even with, regarding mental health, because the fact of the matter is some people can't live with themselves.
Yeah.
Knowing what you've done,
right.
Knowing what you've done, some people really, it's hard for them to live with that guilt, or that shame, so what they do is try to find some sort of validation. Well, I did it because of this, or I didn't know what was going to happen. I was afraid for my life. This is the thing, we talking about Blue Death. That's the most famous line for cops that are involved in police killings.
That they feel threatened.
They were scared for their life. You know what I mean?
Feel threatened.
And that's that way of validating what I did. Well, this validates it.
Right.
So I don't have to live with that guilt.
Excuse me.
God bless you. I don't have to live with that guilt or that shame, right? So I can say, well, I was trying to court of law, and I wasn't guilty. I was found not guilty. I wasn't guilty. Right. I was afraid for my life. I think it's just a part of that validation. But again, I think it's a bigger issue with people, again, not being able to handle that guilt and shame. So since they can't handle that guilt and shame, they find a reason or an excuse to validate their actions. And it's just wrong. I know we gotta go to a commercial break. We'll be right back. But Bishop, I want to give you some numbers too that I was looking up, even about this topic, that I think it's just insane when I give you these numbers. Look, we'll be right back, y'all. We'll be right back with Ensight Podcast. Y'all know what it is. It's me, Pastor B. It's her, Bishop DK Webb. We'll be back in a moment. Listen, thank y'all. We appreciate it. We back. Bishop, I wanted to give you some numbers because I thought this was just insane. In 2022, right? There were 1,192 police killings.
1,192?
That's 8 away from 1,200 killings. That's almost 100 killings a month.
Wow.
In the United States by police.
1,192.
1,192. That's almost 100 a month. So 1,192 killings in 2022, right? That means on average, 3 people die a day at the hands of the police.
Jesus.
That's insane. So back to what you were saying about, we're looking to we're looking to the people in blue to protect and serve and to help us and to be there to aid us. And on average, 3 people a day die by their hands.
Jesus.
It's crazy. Now it says that the research studies say that this is the highest that it has been in a decade. And Bishop, check this out: 92% of the killings are by gunshot. So
92%.
That's lethal force. So you mean tell me out of all the encounters you have with people, 92% of the time you feel like you got to use deadly lethal force?
Wow.
So something's wrong. Like something's wrong. There's a disconnect here. Something is wrong.
Is there a statistic there, Pastor B, with that number? What percentage of them are men of color?
It's not an exact percentage, but it does say that, it's disproportionately, of course, black and brown.
Yeah.
They don't have an exact percentage on this research, but they say disproportionately black and brown people have been victim to these killings.
Wow.
Right? Only 4%, only 4% of police killings does not involve a gun. 4%.
Wow.
That is such a small number.
That's a startling, first of all, statistic, Pastor B, that you got an average of 3 people being killed a day. So, and I'm sure that a lot of them is for traffic stops, because something that is so menial, you got to find, and I know that here in America, that they are going and people are complaining and going to the House and the Senate, and these parents that have lost their children, they're going to the legislature and they're saying that we need to revise, we need to reform, police need to be reformed. You need to, and I thought they did it when they did the George Floyd Policing Act. Right. But when you think about it, Pastor B, a lot of times when these individuals are killed, it's for a minor infraction.
Yeah. Well, they never passed that. That's the problem. They haven't passed that George Floyd Act, but the bill was created, but it didn't pass.
Okay.
I know with Tyree Nichols, I believe it was this week. I think it was maybe Tuesday. I can't think if it was Tuesday or Wednesday, his funeral. And Madam Vice President Kamala Harris was there. And she even spoke about that, how we need to pass that law. We need to pass that bill and get it to the president's desk so he can sign it into law.
Well, guess what? We in every city we live in, we need to send in letters. We need to send in, our feelings about it, and have those that we have voted in office to go and pass that bill. Because listen, listeners and viewers, listen.
Yeah.
It don't have to be you. It don't have to be your family member. And I know a lot of these mothers, I've heard them say, Pastor B, even this young man that was just killed, she said no parent should ever have to do this and hear this. No parent, and hear her son crying out for her. That does something to mothers. We carry the children.
Absolutely.
We carry the children. So it doesn't matter if you're a grown man. Your mother is the one that birthed you. It doesn't matter if you're 49. It doesn't matter if you're 29. It doesn't matter if you're 39. Your mother birthed you. Yeah. And these men know, for the most part, if you have a mother who's been an intricate part of your life and been the best mom she could, of course you're going to call her mom, because she's been your best friend. She's been your friend when nobody else was. So it doesn't make you a mama's boy because you call on your mother. You're calling on that person that you know will help you and want the best for you. And it's just terrible. But Pastor B, I want to also address this now. They said with this young man's case, not only did the 5 police get fired and charged, kudos to the chief of the police department there in Memphis, but they said, Pastor B, 3 firefighters, they suspended them, and 2 others, I think EMTs.
Yeah, so I think there are EMTs involved, firefighters, and they're still investigating, because there's something also with the response time. So they're looking at basically like the communications people, what was the information disseminated properly, throughout
they've suspended the firefighters. But my thing, Pastor B, and before we close today, we have to realize, though, Pastor B, a lot of times these people in blue, they got mental issues too.
That's
They
Bishop. You know what? I really feel, and this is what I was trying to say before. I really feel that there has to be some money invested into mental health for police officers. Because it's not, listen, they deal with a lot. I mean, the stuff that they encounter, on a day by day basis, stuff that we never see, the craziness
stuff that affects them.
Yeah, the crazy, like not just stuff that people are doing to them, like if people are treating them bad, right?
No.
But things that they see, like when they see, people that were murdered, or people that have been abused, or just the sight of certain things. It's just like when someone passes away, right? If they pass away on the street, the police they come and cover them with the white sheet, right?
Right.
That's to protect the remains, but it's also
as well as the crime scene.
And protect the crime scene, but as well as people that may be witnesses that they won't be traumatized by, because trauma, it affects your mental health.
Yeah, trauma triggers.
Right, it triggers your mental health. So the police, but they can see it.
Yeah.
They can be on the scene. They can see the body without the sheet.
Absolutely.
And they're investigating. If someone was shot, they can see, where the bullet went in, where it came out. They can see, and I'm not going to get graphic, but they can see, if the body was torn apart, they see all of that. And of course, we already know, just like when things happen at schools, they say, oh, grief counselors will be available. So right. Of course, I'm sure police have counselors available, but I'm talking about something needs to be put in place more on a mandatory type of thing.
Yeah. I think, Pastor B, even with, we're talking about reform, I think they need to have a full psychological profile, not just going in.
But Bishop, this is what I'm saying. They do that initially. I'm saying,
well, how far do they go? It can't be. You need to find out, do people have trauma in their life from their past? You got to find out a whole lot of stuff, how they handle certain emotions. Maybe they need to get more in depth with this psychological profile.
But Bishop, what I'm speaking to is a continuous program.
I understand what you're saying, because they constantly see it.
Right. So
especially homicide detectives.
They could come into the force and be great with good intentions and a clear conscience,
And I would like to believe most of the time that's the case.
But then, after a few months, few years,
of all they've seen.
Yeah. So that's what it needs to be, something put in place to where it's not just the initial police academy, okay, you pass the test, you get in. No, in terms of psychologically, I think it needs to be something that is put in place where, just like you go get a physical annually or something like that, you get an annual type of thing just to check on you. And it's not and it's really not to work against you, but it's just to always keep you, aware of how things are affecting you.
Exactly. And I think, that's being in touch with your mental health. And because after a while, after you suppress so much, after you see so much and you suppress so much, that's one of the things that in professional chaplaincy, like I am professional chaplain, that's a requirement, especially when you want to be a supervisor. You have to get therapy. It's a requirement. And then even in being a professional chaplain, you have to have weekly IPR, weekly. And you have to be in that circle and say, what's bothering you? Because a lot of times when you're allowed to process that in the midst of your colleagues, and we're seeing it from different lenses, then it helps us. And I think as today, as we're talking about this hot topic, Blue Death, the reality of police brutality, is that we got to remember, beloved, we aren't trying to demonize police either, but facts is facts. Reality is reality. And we're seeing too many cases. And Pastor B gave us an insight moment, 1,192 deaths by Blue in 2022 alone. So it's factual. We're not trying to make stuff up. And but we do have thousands and thousands of those in Blue that I know and believe are doing a marvelous job. And they are doing a great job in their community. Yes. And so I think, Pastor B, and they're telling me we got to go to a quick break again. But I think in our close, we want to talk about that, Pastor B. And we want our viewers, put in the chat. What is it that we can, as citizens, law-abiding, tax-paying citizens, what is it that we can do? What do we need to write in and write our councilmen and our mayors and those people who are supposed to represent us?
I think that's the key, Bishop. When we come back, right, that's the key right there. You got to put your words into action.
You got to put it on paper.
Yeah, you got to put it on paper. Listen, y'all, we'll be right back. Y'all know what it is. That's Bishop. It's me, Pastor B. All right, we'll be right back. All right, y'all, listen. We got this hot topic. I'm telling you, y'all, listen, if you know anybody before we close that's not on here, text your friends, send them a shout out.
Tell them to go back and watch it, Pastor B. They need to hear this.
Join on this podcast.
Yeah.
This hot topic, Blue Death, the reality of police brutality. Thank you to all of our subscribers. We appreciate you so much. Before we close, we just want to make sure we get that in again. Thank you so much to all of our subscribers. Happy Friday to you once again. But Bishop, I think, following up on what you were saying, we have to put our words in actions.
Yes.
And be able to speak truth to power by way of putting things on paper. That's the only way.
And Pastor B, if it takes going up on the hill and testifying, not just the parents who've been affected, but citizens, to make sure that doesn't happen to our family members and anybody else, to go and testify. But we need to put stuff in black and white. We need to send letters to councilmen and councilwomen and those who represent us in our various districts all across the country. We need to put it in writing. Because with this, Pastor B, it has to be some reform. And I want to say this, Pastor B, I hear a lot of people saying, well, I don't know why they complaining about black people getting killed by policemen, again, black or white policemen, when they out here killing each other. But the difference, Pastor B, and that is when citizens commit crime against a citizen, that's just that, Pastor B.
Right.
That's a citizen against a citizen. People become more outraged. And of course, Pastor B, not saying that it makes the outrage or outrage any less, because all life has value and we value all life. But when you have a citizen who is now killed, graveyard dead, by an individual, Pastor B, that you pay through your taxes to protect them, Pastor B, that's another level of outrage.
Absolutely. I mean, and again, that's why I keep saying it's an emotional thing, because I mean that's beyond frustrating.
Yeah.
Because you literally. So in other words, we had the topic about victim or vigilante, right?
Right.
So a lot of people that have become vigilantes for that reason.
Yeah.
Because they feel like, well, you know what? I ain't calling the police. I take the law into my own hands. I deal with it on my own. They taking the law into their own hands because they feel that way. They feel like what they're paying their taxes for. They're paying their taxes. They're paying into the system, to be able to support law enforcement and things like that. And they're not delivering on their promise. You know what?
Or sometimes people have a fear if I do call them, they may come and do something to me, and I'm actually the victim.
Do something to me. Exactly. So you know what? I handle it on my own. That's all right. I don't even want to deal with them. I handle it on my own. You know what I mean? That's a whole nother element of it. And again, it just speaks to the mental anguish that goes through the mind, especially of people of color. The mental anguish that goes through our mind when a traffic stop is initiated, or again, just coming in contact with the police. Because look at Eric Garner. Okay, he was out there selling single cigarettes. Okay, well, whatever. He was on the sidewalk, but they approached him and he lost his life right there on that spot.
Right there in the spot, selling cigarettes.
Because of some cigarettes? Alton Sterling in New Orleans, he was selling some CDs and y'all killed him? For what? For what?
So this 1,192 deaths that you read to us.
Almost 100 a month.
Almost 100 a month.
Yep.
And we only hear about a few of them.
Exactly.
That means we got a lot of families out here suffering.
Exactly. And last year, it was the highest of the decade.
Highest of the decade. And so you wonder, does it have something to do with the pandemic? That they weren't doing so much during the pandemic. People were staying in, and some of these policemen are overzealous. It's just a myriad of speculations that can be articulated. And so we won't get into that as we're closing. But today we want to say to you on this Friday in our hot topic about Blue Death. First of all, we want to say we're praying, Pastor B, because we are not a Christian show, but we're Christ-centered. And we're praying for all of those parents and those family members of those 1,192 people that were killed by police in 2022. Yeah. And so far, the ones we've seen killed in 2023. We want to say we're praying for them. There is no one answer, Pastor B. I don't think there's no one answer. But we want to know, too, we want you to know for those in blue, we do try to honor you, but you got to understand the job that you're in and what you represent. As Pastor B has said, as a Black man, the first emotion probably that rises is fear. Then you have anxiety, you got distrust. All of these, Pastor B, all of these things happen.
All of it.
And so it's not that we're trying to, not follow the law, but you got to realize, men and women in blue, the culture of what's going on now in 2023, Pastor B.
Yeah.
As we close out, Pastor B, as a Black man, what would you say, even to other Black men? What would you say to them?
As a Black man, I would just say, you got to stay prayerful, more than anything. You got to pray, not only for your safety and your protection, but pray for wisdom, ask God for wisdom, just how to handle yourself, you know what I mean? That you can come out of any situation, peacefully and alive, use some wisdom, don't be resistant in any type of way, whether it be physically, or verbally or anything like that. Don't be resistant. And ultimately, even if something does happen, unfortunately we got to handle it, through the court system. But we want to go home. We want to go home.
Yeah, we want to go home. And that's what some of the men, I'm sure, was thinking when they put their hands out the window and show they weren't and still was killed. So it's no one right answer, but these are some tools that you can use as we close it. These are some tools as Pastor B is giving you that we can use. And let us, America, let us pray and continue to pray. We're praying for those in blue because we don't want them either to become part of Blue Death, because now, Pastor B, their salary, their income, their family, everything on their side is affected, as well as those who've been victimized. There's no winners here. So we want to encourage you today, beloved. Share this podcast with others. Yes. Make sure you drop us a line. Let us know if you're enjoying the podcast. Amen. Ensight Podcast. And today our topic, Blue Death, the reality of police brutality. We'll see you next Friday. Pastor B, thank you so much. Amen.
Thank you
so much.
See y'all next Friday.
We'll see you next Friday on Ensight Podcast.